Okay, everybody, I was waiting for the clock to tick over to 1:15, but I've noticed watching these in the past that there's just people sitting there saying nothing and looking like idiots, so that's another 30 seconds I won't look like an idiot. Welcome back to the program, and we've been gone for 2 weeks. A lot has happened in those 2 weeks. In fact, only 3 weeks ago, our guest was David Argyle. That's how much has changed in the last 3 weeks. Just going over what we've just seen before I introduce the guest. We've seen St George Illawarra. I thought they were pretty poor, actually. In the end, they only got beaten 24-16 by a depleted Sydney Roosters. But really, they were conceded a try in the first 2 minutes, and they were hardly ever in the match, I thought. And after that, if you're lucky enough to have access to the Fox coverage, Sonny Bill Williams was on, and Sonny Bill Williams talked about joining the Roosters, and he basically suggested that if he's not playing for the Wolfpack next year, he will retire. And that is a little bit topical. It's not the introduction he wanted, but I've got Ricky Wilby on the program, who is the CEO of the New York, the would-be, could-be, will-be New York franchise. Hello, Ricky. How are you?
Hi, Steve. Yeah, I'm good, thanks.
Yeah. So I won't. There's obviously. What's the week been like for you then? Rather than me try to ask a specific question, I understand you're limited in what you can say. So just tell the viewers and listeners what your week has been like, and I'll actually hit record in case we have no viewers to ensure we do have some listeners.
So we were approached probably 10 days ago now, just to see if we'd be interested in helping out, effectively save the Wolfpack and see what we could do. So the last week has probably been poring over spreadsheets and accounts and PDFs and more spreadsheets and running numbers and looking at potential costs and outgoings and current debts and ongoing debts. And yeah, they've been long days, and it was nice over the weekend to turn my phone off for a few days just to get some family time for my daughter's birthday. And
happy birthday to your daughter. What?
Turn the phone back on again and had.
Where does it sit now? Like, where does as we talk?
We're in constant dialogue with the guys at the Wolfpack. There's a couple of issues that we've got that need to be resolved for us to contemplate moving forward. But once hopefully we can come to some sort of resolution on those issues, and then we can look to move forward and see what we can do.
You wouldn't have to be Einstein to figure out that debts would be one of those issues. Is that the biggest issue, debts?
No, the debts aren't the massive issue, if we're being honest. It's more existing shareholders and current shareholders and seeing where that would be and where they would lie. So that was one of them, and then obviously the position in which the Wolfpack sit in terms of Super League and the RFL and the structure itself.
Yeah, we saw a report last night by Mick Gledhill saying that Eric Perez wanted, he wanted a payout. He wanted, not a payout, but he wanted to collect his dividend, which as a shareholder is entitled to call in. Are they the sort of problems that you sort of have to deal with?
Yeah, I mean, how much is a share worth, I suppose, is the big thing. And that's where negotiations have to take place, and people need to be understanding from both points of view. Obviously, Eric put a lot of work into the Wolfpack, in creating the Wolfpack in the first place, and the first year of operation. So Eric quite rightly feels like it's his baby and feels like it's his right to get some sort of dividends.
Yeah. Now you've gone from maybe playing some exhibition games next year. Am I right that you're now in a position where you might be in Super League next year? In the space of, like, is that a possibility or not?
I mean, potentially, yeah. If we were doing anything, we'd run the team in Toronto next year anyway.
Right.
And the conversations all the way through have been about keeping the team in Toronto. It's not been about moving the team to New York. It's always been about keeping the team in Toronto, and then the New York team occurs and comes in organically, like it was planned to do so.
Right. I'm sure the game has built up a lot of great following in Toronto, as you've become aware, and a lot of the fans there are very concerned that they're going to lose their team. So there's no talk of relocating the team to New York. New York and Toronto would exist concurrently in some future season. Is that the idea, or? Yeah,
that's the plan. Yeah, and those are the numbers we've been running to make sure that there's sufficient funding for both teams to make sure that both teams can cooperate and run at the same time. We're really appreciative of the work that's gone on over the last 4 years of operation, but then the subsequent years that Eric has put into the business, and that deserves recognition. That deserves to have a team there in Toronto. I mean, you've been, I've been. It's a fantastic match day experience. It's something that's, unless you've experienced it, you never really get it. I didn't get it until I went. I always thought, oh yeah, it's just a beer festival, but it's not. It's a great day. It's not just a great event. It's a great day, and they run that event really well.
Mate, how would you deal with the sort of outstanding bills? Like, or how would theoretically someone in your situation deal with the outstanding bills? How does it work itself out?
Yeah, so obviously we've got an investment team that would look to put the money in initially and put the money up front. Players need paying, staff need paying. I think they're the priorities over anything else. And then it's a case of sitting down with some of the guys who are already there at the club and working out either which debts need paying, which debts need working out and payment plans sorting out, which ones are immediate payments. We don't want to see any businesses go out of business. We don't want to see anyone go out of work. We don't want to see people losing houses and cars and whatever else. So we need to sit down and we need to discuss payment plans with everyone really and see how that fits and how we can work with people to make things work.
Mate, it sounds like you're now nominally running two clubs. So have you had to put the New York thing to the side? And at what point do you have to return to it? Like, when do you need a resolution so that you can return to the New York project?
I mean, obviously we've not agreed to take over the Wolfpack or anything just yet anyway, so we're still conducting our due diligence on that. However, if we're talking about entry into the RFL structure, we're always talking 22 anyway. Mm-hmm. So potentially I could work on this project for maybe 6 months while still putting a bit of working on the New York side. And we've got a good team working on the New York stuff at the minute. So the plan is to have the people who are currently working on the New York stuff keep working on the New York stuff. And then we'd look to put a team in place in Toronto that hopefully can make some things tick and some things work up there.
Mate, the last person we had on the program was Brian Carney, and Brian Carney said his big question about New York, the only question he thought matters was, who are these people? who the only question that should be asked is, who are these people? Show us the money, as it were. Now, obviously, if they're looking at taking over Toronto and they're involved in serious talks, these people exist. They have some money. Can you tell us anything else about them, who they are? Yeah.
I mean, one of the guys owns an MLR team over in the States. So he owns one of the rugby union teams over there. So he's heavily involved in rugby. We named one particular shareholder at the launch. So we've not been too quiet when it came to discussing people and letting people know the backgrounds. The key thing is the RFL know who they are. They've conducted due diligence on them. And they've seen it sufficient that we can start progressing further into conversations. If these guys didn't have any money, if these guys weren't serious, and if these guys weren't involved, then the RFL would have pushed us back straight away. Yeah.
So, are you or them? Are they going to travel to Toronto in the near future, or do they not need to travel? They just need to look at various books and stuff.
I can't travel to Toronto, I don't think, at the minute from the UK. However, like I said, one of the guys is heavily invested in rugby union over in the States at the moment. So he can travel backwards and forwards to Toronto. He did travel up, I want to say March, April time, for discussions with the Wolfpack back then. And he came away thinking, I'm not sure if it's the right thing for us to do. And then obviously this opportunity has raised its head. So he's had an interest in getting involved in the Wolfpack for a while now. So it's not just the last week that we've thought, oh yeah, this is an opportunity. Our investment team have been looking at the Wolfpack for a while.
Right. And when you go, do you want to keep Sonny Bill Williams, or do you not think you can afford him? I mean, and are you happy to go into any division you're told? Do you want to, do you want to go into Super League? Is it a condition? These sort of questions,
If we're being honest, Steve, it's a big selling point is the fact that you could go straight to Super League or stay in Super League. To go into Championship or to go into League One, we can do that with New York anyway. So what's the point in us shelling out millions of dollars to keep Toronto in the comp? We think it's pretty important to preserve that Toronto brand and preserve that Toronto team, especially with Ottawa next year. Obviously, we're hoping for New York the following year. So we think it's pretty important to keep Toronto there. So yeah, that's kind of where we were thinking. That's kind of where we are.
And the previous administration were very keen on getting a share of the TV money and being a full member, as Ottawa will be. Is that also on the table from your group?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's a conversation to have with the guys in Super League. It's not an RFL decision. So it's certainly a discussion to have with Super League and the teams. I mean, they voted emphatically, I think, the other day on revoking the participation agreement for the Wolfpack. So we need to sit down and have some serious discussions with Super League to see where they stand and their thoughts on where they are. But I think those discussions probably take place probably in a week's time rather than immediately, because tensions are still raw. I think the way that the Wolfpack, with such short notice, withdrew from the competition, I don't think clubs and particularly Super League have taken that well.
Yeah, I mean, you must imagine anyone involved in expansion has been set back on their heels a little bit, and that it reflects on everybody somewhat, doesn't it?
It does, yeah, and obviously I'm sure Eric is concerned slightly with Ottawa, and we were certainly concerned with New York, because it just raises extra questions, which we're all right with. We're happy to answer those questions, but it just raises those extra questions, those extra doubts. It raises doubts in people's minds, and it makes sure that you need to make sure that all your T's are crossed and your I's are dotted.
Yeah, mate, you obviously watched the Wolfpack play this year. How hard will it be if you do get a Super League licence to put together or for anyone, if another owner comes in even, how hard will it be for the new owners to assemble a competitive team for next year?
Yeah, I mean, they've got a number of players who are leaving at the end of the year. I think John Wilkins already gone on record as saying he's retiring. So they've got some gaps to fill, but I think a lot of teams' recruitment has been pushed back. So whereas normally now everybody's recruitment would have been over and done with, people's recruitment hasn't really begun for next year. So there's still players there on the market. So I can't envisage there being too many problems. I think the key thing for players is making sure that they're getting paid on time and they're actually getting paid.
Yeah. Well, so the coaching staff and all that sort of thing, would that stay the same, or would that be reviewed? Or
I think so. Yeah, I think I think everyone's under contract for next year in terms of coaching staff. So to come in and run the broom through everyone without giving them opportunity, and Brian McDermott's done a lot of things with one hand tied behind his back, and in occasions probably with two hands tied behind his back. So his pedigree speaks for itself, and he was the coach who got them promoted to Super League. So he probably deserves that chance if they were to stay in Super League to get that opportunity to see where they can go and where they can be.
Maybe we'll move on to New York now, which is what we originally scheduled to talk about. The idea of entering the Challenge Cup next year and hosting all these visiting teams, that's kind of is there some doubt over that now because of the things we just discussed?
Yeah, I mean with COVID, it's not great, and I suppose there is a definitive end date for when the season's going to be next year, when the season is going to finish next year. But with the way that there's no definitive end date for this season yet, so there's going to be no definitive start date for next year. So us trying to put a squad together and a roster together that would be competitive in Challenge Cup, and that by no means is us saying we want to come in and win Challenge Cup, because we appreciate how difficult that's going to be. But just to be competitive and not come in and get knocked out in round one or get knocked out in round two, that you get one chance to launch in New York. And we couldn't afford to come in and get knocked out in round one or two. We'd want a decent cup run. So the COVID situation has been really tough for a lot of people. Obviously, when we launched in March, the idea was to have a launch in the States the following Monday with the Challenge Cup draw. We had close to 50 members of the US media there, planned to be there. We had the Empire State Building locked in to host the draw. Then they got told that they couldn't host it. Then we rearranged the draw to be held at Red Bull Arena. Then Red Bull got put into lockdown, and only essential staff were allowed into Red Bull. And slowly but surely, things were just starting to go against us. So COVID has counted against us in a massive way. And I mean, even that trip, I had to get an emergency flight back 24 hours earlier than I should have come back, because we got told while we were there that President Trump was putting a travel ban on people from the UK travelling to the States. So we've done it tough over the last couple of months, but we've got some good people working in the organisation and working for the organisation. People are working hard behind the scenes. So even though we're not massively active on social media or massively active and putting things out and media-wise, we're still working hard behind the scenes to try and we've still got ambitions. And as it sits at the minute, the stadium are expecting to host events until next March. So we've still got ambitions to host events in 2021. But they might not be the NRL teams against New York, but it might be the NRL teams playing against the NRL teams, or it might be precursors to the World Cup, or it might be warm-up games to the World Cup, or international games, or even a nines tournament, or something along them lines. And like I say, we've got some real good people working with us. Jason at Global 13, and he's working really hard behind the scenes to help us get some events on for next year to help us launch ready for 2022.
Ricky, your backers and all that, they the idea of them owning two clubs, like that must be scary for them. Do you now need to try to recruit more people in if you're going to, spread yourselves divide yourself in two, basically,
Yeah, I mean, as it stands, no, because the money has always been ring fenced for New York. So the money has always been ring fenced for New York, and that was it. It was more a case of us going back to the original backers and seeing if there was a pot of money there that we could work on to put on the Wolfpack. And look, these guys are wealthy people. They've worked hard to earn their money, and they're not going to spend it frivolously, and they want to conduct all their due diligence, and they want to make sure that they're business people at the end of the day. They want to make money. So they want to make sure that they're going to turn a dollar, and it's a project that they can believe in. Yeah. So the timetable for you is what, a decision, yay or nay, on Toronto in the next 6-8 weeks? Is that the way it looks, or? Probably even closer than that. We'd probably look to make a decision over the next. We don't want to leave Toronto hanging on, waiting, expecting us to come and ride in on a white horse and a knight in shining armour. We want to be upfront and honest. And if our investment team don't think it's worthwhile taking to the next level, then we'll be upfront and honest once we've completed the due diligence and speak to the guys at Toronto and say no. Or we'll start putting a letter of intent to invest together, and we can start moving forward.
Right, and then I guess that is where the fork in the road is for you. You either focus on New York, or you focus on getting a Super League team on the field next year. So with New York, what sort of structure? Sorry. I just say, how many people are waiting in abeyance?
No, it's all right. Carry on.
No, how many people are involved in the New York project and are kind of just sitting there waiting to see what the next step is, or is it all kind of down to you at this point as to whether? Too many for my liking. I mean, the bonus is that everyone has a current job, which is good. So people are putting lives on hold and waiting and hoping for the best, and fingers crossed. People have all got roles and people have all got jobs. So their employers, they've been open and upfront with a lot of them have been open up front with their employers and said, look, this is an opportunity that would be too good to turn down. Some of them have spoken to employers about getting sabbaticals and unpaid leave and whatnot to give it a go. But if it didn't work out for them, if it wasn't the right move for them, then they could return back to their original role. But yeah, we've probably got about a team of probably 12, I think, at the minute, ready to move on the New York project. Right. And let's talk about some of the cool stuff. When are you going to be announcing your jersey? When's that going to be? Is that on hold now too? Yeah, we've probably looked to put a jersey out. I mean, we did the 2 training jerseys, and the Independence Day jersey's just flown out. It's been great. Been a real big seller. But yeah, we probably look to put a jersey out. Maybe might try and time it just in time for Christmas. And that gives us obviously a 12-month run time on it, and gives us it gives us an opportunity to add sponsors to it and get people to really buy into the project and put some jerseys out. And we're talking with the kit supplier, talking to the kit supplier about obviously doing a match jersey and doing a player's jersey and then doing a supporter jersey as well, which would be slightly cheaper. So we've got lots of ideas in the pipeline. The suppliers are great. They've got some real good ideas and some really cool designs that they're looking at putting into action. So. And how has the take-up been on your? Yeah, that is cool. That is a cool thing to talk about. It is. What's the take-up been like on your Pioneers Club? Yeah, I think we're pretty much. I think we've sold over 50. I think at the minute we're looking at pushing 100. Once we get to 100, we've got a number of Apple products, which is pretty cool through the city of Elizabeth. So they've supplied us with iPhones, and then once we get to 1,000, we've got a MacBook Pro that we can give away. Oh wow! So I think all in all, they've got close to $3,000, $4,000 worth of Apple products that we're giving away as part of the Pioneers project. So
So yeah, that's something that's quite exciting. But yeah, it'd be nice to give away the iPhone and get that out to someone.
Ricky, two more things. What is the?
I have to get some phone cases then.
Exactly. Yeah. What is the state? How is the game going in the US at the moment? The US ARL have been pretty quiet since lockdown started. They haven't been very active on social media or anything like that. And then there's new competitions popping up, like in California and down south. So you'd be across that. What's the situation there?
Yeah, I think they cancelled the USA Rugby League season, didn't they? Once lockdown happened, and it's probably the sensible thing. I was talking to Matt Bailey at the Brooklyn Kings yesterday, and they're trying to put plans in place ready for next year. And I think we're probably going to look to do something with Brooklyn in terms of their jerseys, and we'll probably sponsor their jersey and put their jerseys through our kit suppliers next year. So yeah, that's a really exciting partnership that we're working on, and that's good. The guys in California are doing a great job. I think it's Thomas over there on the West Coast. He's shooting great guns, and some of the stuff is really exciting for him, and some of the numbers they were getting last year for some of their games was really big, and we had plans to go over there as part of our season next year to maybe play some exhibition games over on the West Coast as well. So we're going to work really closely with them, and then there's Danny at the USA Rugby League. He works all hours God sends. I think he busts his backside all the time and works really hard, and he doesn't get the accolades that he probably should get for everything that he does, but he keeps that competition running, and it's a massive shame from our point of view that the USA didn't make the World Cup, but with a bit of luck we'll be helping them put some building blocks in place for 2025.
Okay, last question. When are we going to see that New York jersey worn competitively in anger for the first time? What's your betting right now?
We're confident that there'll definitely be some games. Even if it's in a nines tournament, we'll have some games next year that we'll enter some nines tournaments under the New York brand. But we'll certainly be looking at playing competitively in a championship or in a league, hopefully by 2022. Awesome.
Well, I really appreciate you coming on today, Ricky. I don't know if the live pictures are going out, but people will see and hear it eventually. And obviously, a lot of us, as you say, we went to Toronto. And we were impressed, and we don't want to lose those people. Most importantly, it's the fans that we can't afford to lose. So hopefully you can stop that from happening.
Yeah. Hope so.
Good on you, Ricky. Have a good day.
Brilliant. Thanks, Steve. You too. Look after yourself.
You too. Bye.